Welcome to a very wet Donington Park for rounds 19, 20 and 21, the final 3 rounds of this year's GB4 Championship. Now you can see behind me, the clouds are there, the skies are grey. We're very lucky we're actually getting out on track today because everything yesterday was cancelled. There were test sessions booked in. Luckily we got some on Thursday, so these drivers, including 4 new drivers, have had a bit of track time here. And of course we did come here early in the season as well. The championship battle has been decided. Tom Mills from KMR Sport wrapped up the Drivers' Championship last time out at Brands Hatch. KMR Sport also won the Teams Championship, and this is what happened down in Kent.
Highlights from the penultimate weekend in GB4. It was Tom Mills starting from pole position, Liam McNeely alongside a poor start though from Zach Ping at the front of the field as he would drop his way back into the clutches of Colin Queen and Cooper Webster into the first corner. Queen would try it around the outside going through Paddock Hill, but it was the leader Tom Mills starting to check out already, and we'd only done a corner of racing. Already down the hill you can see Colin Queen getting straight around the outside, that number 62, Zach Ping trying to get one straight back down the inside as Colin Queen was trying to wrestle his way onto the podium. Plenty of side-by-side from all those behind as Josh Irfan was getting himself back involved in the mix in the Elite Motorsports car, obviously having to fend off the charge of Jack Clifford as well. Little bits of contact as well and a bit of movement around the outside from an out-qualified, out-of-position Sid Smith. A bit further down the order than he would expect. He'd worked his way past Kulkarni and up comfortably inside the top 10. Tom Mills was leading, but it wasn't super comfortable. Some great laps coming in from Liam McNeely, who was trying to charge up to take race victory, but as the race would go on, eventually Tom Mills would start setting better laps. Cooper Webster was dragging himself back into the mix after setting fastest lap after fastest lap. He was moving back up into contention for second place. But as they were coming round to the final corner, it was Thomas Lee just about to go a lap down, and Tom Mills clear out of the final corner to take his 11th win in the GB4 Championship. Obviously that was just clear of Liam McNeely and Cooper Webster behind. A brilliant effort from them. And when we got to the second race, the first one on Sunday, it was once again pole position from Tom Mills. Side by side up into the first corner as Liam McNeely was feeling the pressure from Cooper Webster. Zach Ping also dropping backwards once again. Sid Smith was one of those drivers working his way forward for the second consecutive race, and this time he was trying to get himself around the outside of Colin Queen. Irfan was muscled out of the way a little bit by Harry Burgoyne Jr. as well, going through Druids as they'd head down towards Graham Hill Bend. Once again a look down the inside from Irfan there in the Elite Motorsports car, the black and yellow, that would leave him under a lot of attack from the KMR Sport car that belonged to Jack Clifford. A move straight down the inside though would instigate a little bit of contact as Kulkarni would send off Darianani into that complex, and Tom Mills would restart the race as they'd have a little bit of a safety car intervention, would restart the race as the leader ahead of Liam McNeely and was starting to feel the pressure. Once that pressure had sort of dropped off a little bit, it was Cooper Webster with an unbelievable move going around the outside of Hawthorns to take over second position, where he was starting to pull clear and maybe even challenging for a race victory. The inside line being taken though from Jack Clifford a bit further down the order for about 6th position as he was trying to fend off the likes of Colin Quinn and trying to close back up to Irfan. The battle for the podium was still right on, but for the race victory it was Tom Mills again for number 12. And on to the reverse grid race then, when this time solid starts from our pole sitters and such at the front of the field. Darianani having to fend off Kulkarni into the first corner, and the Evans Grand Prix car just about being able to do so, but behind all of that, of course, the charges in the background. The likes of Colin Queen trying to work their way up the order. Jack Clifford straight around the outside. Big lock up though on the front right, and he would go straight to the first corner. Behind all that though, there was drama. Of course, Harry Reynolds and Colin Queen making contact going through the second corner, and basically they would stall in their positions. The safety car would have to come out. Once we got back going though, it was crazy stuff into the first corner. Sid Smith straight down the inside of Cooper Webster trying to work his way up the order and dragging through his teammate Liam McNeely. Once McNeely had got through, later on in the race, he'd make a mistake at Paddock Hill before dropping back behind Sid Smith. Of course, all in this fight a little bit further down the order as they were working their way up bit by bit. Up the order, there was a bit of a mistake from Jack Clifford, who'd go out wide going through the final corner, out into the gravel, keeping his foot absolutely pinned through all of it, managed to get it back onto the road. Excellent car control for the KMR Sport driver. Meanwhile, in the fight for second and third, of course, it was Kulkarni hanging on to second position. Third, they would switch the way, seeing Liam McNeely taking over that third position, Cooper Webster dropping back to fourth, and Kulkarni doing everything he can over the final few laps to defend that second position and runner-up spot in the race. It all came shy of this driver here as Evans Grand Prix were prepared to take their third victory of the season, their first in the hands of Kai Darianani in just his 6th race in GB4. Out over the line, it would be a drag race for second position, with of course Kulkarni coming over in second, and of course we look back to Tom Mills with his position in the race being 7th. That was enough for the championship.
So So that was last time out in completely different weather, nice and warm at Brands Hatch as Tom Mills wrapped everything up with KMR Sport. Tom isn't racing this weekend, and Cooper Webster joins me here with Evans GP. And Cooper, you're on double pole position this weekend. So the fight, as we've already discussed in this show, is really for second place, and you're in that pole position there to get that second place. And a double pole position here at Donington Park is exactly what you want.
Yeah, exactly right. The focus this weekend is to secure second in the championship. So starting off the weekend like this with 2 poles is exactly how I wanted it to go. And then you get the bonus of the checks as well. But more importantly, it's to get the second in the championship. And then the next goal after that is to win as many races as I can. Yeah,
well, the weather here is not how it was earlier in the year when we were at Donington Park. Did you enjoy this, your first go round here at Donington Park earlier in the year?
Yeah, of course. I've enjoyed every track that I've gone to this year. It is a bit nicer when it's sunny and warm. But if I can still put it on pole and if the weather's like this, I don't care what the weather's really like. So, no, I'm very happy with today.
Well, we know it does rain occasionally in Australia, and I know it's a bit warmer there at the moment, but we've not seen you for a little while with GB4 not racing last weekend in Zandvoort with GB3. Have you been racing since back home, since we last spoke to you at Brands Hatch?
No, I haven't had any S5000 races in Australia between those 2 rounds. But I had one, before Brands Hatch, and that went really well at the Bend Motorsport Park. So, still trying to keep up with as much race like sim racing at home while in between with my sim at home. So keeping up fit with that, and then I've also got a go-kart at home as well, which I think is a good tool to keep your eye in it.
A lot of fun as well. I imagine we're going to talk a lot over this weekend because you're very much up there, one of the fastest drivers, and obviously the fastest driver to get the double pole so far this weekend. When it comes to looking back at this season, wherever you finish, what's been your sort of highlight so far of racing in the UK and sort of travelling so much to compete in these 2 different championships?
Yeah, for sure. When I look back in the season, I think the first highlight is to coming over here and racing in England. I never thought that was going to be the case. So that's the first thing that I'm most proud of, that I've got to this point. And then in terms of performance, I think getting off on the right foot like pretty quickly, I was happy with. And then I had a really good round at Snetterton. I got pole there and 2 wins out of the 3 races, which was probably the best weekend that I had over here. And then so far this weekend's going really well. And that's not to discourage any of the other weekends I had. They were all very competitive as well. Like Donington here last night, I got 4 second places. So I think I've had a really good year, even though it's not first place in the championship. I'm still very, very happy.
Are there any signs that you may come back to the UK next year? Are you sort of looking around? Where are you at? I know drivers are all very secretive about these things, but give me a hint at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to come and race GB3 again next year. I think that would be the best and most obvious step because similar tracks, cars are a bit faster and a bit different, but it's all on the same tracks, which is a massive thing. And so that's what I'd love to do, but who knows? At the moment, I just like to be racing in another series next year. It won't be in GB4 again, but hopefully it's something abroad and Formula Car wise.
Okay, that was more than I was expecting, so that was good. Finally, we've seen drivers win 3 races in a GB4 weekend. A couple of times Nicholas Taylor did it last year, Tom Mills did it earlier this year. 2 pole positions and, a grid with 4 less experienced drivers, and you being the fastest driver so far this weekend. Do you think you could maybe end the year on a real high with 3 race wins?
Yeah, maybe. That's, if the weekend's going well, that's what I'm going to aim for. But again, it's more importantly is just to get second in the championship first, and then focusing on trying to do some dominating in the weekend. But a lot has to go right for that to happen, and usually those stuff happen without you kind of worrying about it. You just kind of get your things right and focus on the driving and not making mistakes, and the wins will come.
Nice one. Well, look, thanks for finding time with us so soon before the first race. We'll enjoy watching you race from pole position in both these races, then the reverse grid race tomorrow. And it's been great meeting you this year, and hopefully we'll chat to you again next year.
Yeah, perfect. You too.
Excellent stuff. Well, next up, we'll have a quick look at the track that Cooper and the rest of the GB4 drivers are going to be racing around very shortly.
Well, to Leicestershire and just about at the Derbyshire border as we head to the 2.5-mile circuit of Donington Park. It was opened back in 1931 and is one of the oldest circuits in Europe. It is the oldest circuit in the United Kingdom still in use. An absolutely fantastic venue, full of history and full of challenging corners. Big overtaking opportunities in the likes of Redgate, McLean's, Coppice, the Fogarty S, Goddard's, etc. And of course, for the brave, down into the old hairpin. The Wheatcroft Straight is the start-finish straight up towards Redgate and then down this enormous hill, 2.5 miles in length, but so much elevation. You get a real good look of it here as we come down the hill, through the Craners, through the old hairpin, and then we begin that climb all the way up through Starkey's Bridge, Schwantz Curve, up towards McLean's. It is a fantastic circuit for racing and certainly one that will challenge all of our drivers this weekend.
Well, that's the track here at Donington Park. Lewis McGlade, commentator and sim racing aficionado, is with me now. I imagine the conditions when you sim race, you can make not as wet as they are this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you can make them better. You can make them worse if you really want to, if you really want to go to town. But realistically speaking, yeah, it's pretty tricky out there at the moment.
Yeah, I was here a bit earlier when some of the GB4 drivers were arriving, and Harry Burgoyne Jr. was walking up with me and he was looking at it going, yeah, it's a bit wet, isn't it? He was hoping that the GT cars that go around a little bit earlier before qualifying would throw up some of the spray. So we'll have to see when they go out there. But speaking of sim racing, we've got some new drivers on the grid. Lucas Blakely is one of them, which we'll hear from in a minute. I know you caught up with him a bit earlier. But the race for second place is something we need to talk about, Lewis, because at the moment, Tom Mills is the champion, KMR Sport the champion. They wrapped that up back at Brands Hatch. But we have 3 drivers going for second place this weekend, and that is the fight that we're going to follow.
Yeah, of course, 3 drivers in that. You've got Cooper Webster, who's the leader of that. He's in second place. Fairly comfortable at the moment in that second spot, but that can change in an instant. It can change even after qualifying. You can put yourself on the back foot. You've got Liam McNeely in there. You've got Colin Queen in there. It's quite a tight little fight between them. Yes, there's some decent points gaps, but with how GB4 is and with how some of the pace and form changes so quickly, especially in difficult conditions, you just never really know where it's going to go.
If all of these drivers were on equal points, and I know there's around about 40 points between 4th, 3rd and 2nd, who would you say has impressed you the most driving around this track last time it came to Donington?
That's a difficult one. It's very much, I don't want to do Colin Queen any disrespect, because I know he's fast, he's shown that pace around here. He did make a few too many mistakes last time. I remember we had one up at Coppice, quite a big one where he went for a big spin round there. So for me then it's more between Cooper Webster and Liam McNeely. McNeely wasn't so strong round here, but his form recently has been actually really impressive. He's on 5 podiums on the bounce at the moment, which is almost unheard of in the championship. I think Jack Sherwood did 7 last year, so he's on a really good record. But then Cooper Webster, I think he is the driver to beat, not just in terms of second place in the championship, but just on pace at the moment.
Yeah, Cooper Webster was pushing Tom Mills a lot at the start of the season, then obviously Tom's experienced second-year driver in GB4 kind of helped him pull away. Let's look at Lucas Blakely then, because Lucas Blakely has come in as the F1 Sim Racing World Champion, which you can tell me more about in just a second. He did a round earlier on, he's been away, he's come back, he's done some Formula Ford, I know, but he's back here, and actually in testing on Thursday, before we were washed out yesterday, he was showing some real pace, and it's incredible to see that you can come from the sim racing world and apply that to real life driving.
Yeah, I mean, he did, he qualified quite well at Snetterton, that previous round that he did. Qualified really well. I think he struggled on the first race start, had a couple of spins through the races, kind of the stuff that we were expecting. He'd never raced a car like this, not with the downforce that we've got, even the power that we've got, and it's only 160 brake horsepower, but in a car as light as this, that's quite a lot under your right foot. So I think there was a couple of struggles there. Fair enough. Bit more experience, a circuit like this, which I'm sure he would have done laps on the sims as well. He's a quality driver, not only on the sim, F1 Esports World Champion, but I said he's proven himself in things like Race to Champions, where he went over, he did that in Sweden a couple of years back, and again he beat a driver you might have heard of.
Right. Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel.
Hang on, let me just wrap my brain. Sebastian Vettel. He's won. I saw won a couple of races back in the day, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he's a pretty good driver.
He was
a pretty good driver. Yeah, I love his hairstyle these days. Looks like a bit of a hippie, but yeah. Well, the thing for Lucas, I love watching his social media because he'll just go on, and I saw him do Las Vegas in the Formula 1 game, and he's just like, okay, Las Vegas track, this is brand new, and I know Lando's done this on his channel as well, and Lucas is there just smashing out lap records and beating actual F1 drivers who are having a go on the game. I know it's maybe not quite exactly like a sim racing game. The F1 game is a little bit more sort of aimed at consumers, but it's very, very impressive. Let's hear what he said when you caught up with him a little bit earlier on.
So I've managed to drag Lucas Blakely out of the KMR Sport tent. Lucas, I mean, so you joined us a little bit earlier on in the season. You did a round at Snetterton. Talk us through that round at Snetterton and what you might have learned from it.
Yes, Snetterton was such a rollercoaster experience. You know, first time in a Six and Wings car and GB4, and it was also the first time at the track as well. So that was a crazy experience. One of the my favourite highlights of the year, and learned so much from it. And I didn't expect to have the opportunity to race again in GB4, so ultimately coming here was a very amazing surprise. It was actually funny because Kevin and I were messaging. It was shortly after I did what I thought would be my last race of the year, and then I was like, oh, I'll come down to Donington and I'll maybe support the team if I can, if I've got the time. And he was like, you can hop in one of the cars, and I just went, ha ha ha. I thought he was joking, but then very quickly we spoke more. And here we are. And I brought the Scottish weather with me, so it's
clearly
fantastic.
it's not ideal weather-wise this weekend. Obviously, very different to what we had at Snetterton. You think that's going to be positive for you, negative for you? Like, what were we kind of expecting from that one?
I'm just keeping an open mind as possible because, obviously the British weathers came out to play. It was my first time on Thursday because yesterday, obviously, we were cancelled. With the testing, but with the weather, and then Thursday was my first time in the wet, which was really fun. Very tricky to get right, of course. With it's quite a technical circuit, and you've got pretty much everything. You've got insanely fast corners, you've got the heavier braking zones. It's very tricky to get right, especially on your first sort of visit as well. It was. There's plenty to, I'm not really hoping for one thing or another, if that makes sense. I'm not hoping for it to be dry or for it to be wet. I'm sort of just, whatever I'm given, I'm going to go out there and just try and drive as fast as possible with it. Because ultimately I only had one day of testing instead of two. So for me, I just want to make sure I get out on track and just make whatever track time I've got count.
Now you're a busy man. You've been up to quite a bit between the last round you did at GB4 and this one. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so obviously quite a lot of sim racing, doing the day job if you like, with playing F1 23, doing my league racing, getting ready for upcoming F1 esports, whenever that is, and ultimately doing a little bit of Formula Ford here and there as well, which was really fun. Managed to pick up my first win in that as well, which was a big achievement, which I never thought I'd get the chance to do as well. So very grateful. I did a bit of Formula Ford in between, just to try and keep satisfying that urge to go out on track and drive. So ultimately I didn't expect to be back here. It's such a privilege in general because I know how hard it is to get yourself onto. I know from my own experience how hard it is to get yourself onto the onto the motorsport ladder at all. So very grateful for the opportunity. So big thank you to KMR Sport for been amazing to me all year. They're it's like a great family environment. I can't say enough good things about the whole team, and also big thanks to Pace Note for sponsoring me this weekend here at Donington.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that later on in the weekend. I was trying to get Brendan Lee down here to have a little bit of a 1v1, F1 Esports World Champions. He wasn't biting. Obviously, a lot of people are hoping, best luck for the weekend, and same from us. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Always good to see the Lewis and Lucas combination. Now, there are 4 new drivers on the grid this weekend, and one of them is with me now, Lexi Belk from Belk Racing. It's your first experience in the GB4 car in a race environment. You've done a lot of testing already. How confident are you that you've got everything down and you're going to have the kind of race weekend you want to have?
Well, I'm really excited. I mean, I've got no expectations coming into the weekend. I'm just here to, see what it's going to be like for next year. So I'm just using it as a practice and hopefully do well.
And you're committed to doing next year, so this is kind of like, as you say, a trial run. How much have you actually been in the car before coming to Donington this weekend?
So I've only done 3 test days in here. I've done 2 days here, but only one of them was half a day, so not that much. But I've never tested in the wet before, so It's going to be a learning curve.
It's going to be very interesting to see, but you have been helped by Hillspeed. They've got you one of their cars up to speed. You're now racing as a privateer as well, and you're from a family that's got a bit of racing history, a lot of racing in the family.
Yeah, so I obviously started from my dad. My dad's raced all sorts, and then my sister also races in the Mini Challenge Club Sport. And then I did Fiestas last year, Janetta this year, and then we started in karting like everyone else, and then now we're here.
Well, I was going to say it's a big step up from karting to getting into this car, but I'm sure you've had people around you that have helped you and supported you. And then once you've done this round here, I guess you just do a lot of sim work maybe and a bit more testing, and then next year is kind of a full season, a full assault on the GB4 Championship.
Yeah, exactly. I do days on the sim, I do days at iZone, and obviously I'm at Loughborough College, so we do days at the sim there. Go down to Bicester sometimes, go to the gym a lot, so yeah, we're fully prepared.
And finally, this is a huge weekend for women in driving in single-seaters with the F1 Academy on the same grid as the Formula One racing for the first time. Obviously, next season that will be something that happens at all arounds. But watching those drivers, 3 of them came from GB4 last year, and they're now racing at the Circuit of Americas, which is, you know, an amazing track and tracks that people want to drive at. And that must be something that inspires you. Now you're in their position this year and going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's great seeing how far they've come. Obviously, from starting GB4, now they're doing something massive. And it's great to look up to, and I hope that's me one day.
Excellent stuff. Well, Lexi, we're going to chat loads more this year and next year, I'm sure. But for now, that's our first new driver of the weekend. Let's hear it from the other 3 new drivers taken to the grid here at Donington Park.
So I'm with Theo Mercouris. Theo, you're doing your first round in GB4. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Theo Mercouris. I started racing back when I was 8 years old, did a lot of karting, and I've made the move into car racing this year. I've been racing Radical SR1 all year, and I was lucky enough to have a great team behind me, so we ended up winning the championship in my rookie year, which was fantastic, and now I'm having my first ever go to single-seater, so we'll just have to see how it goes.
Talk to us about the differences between like the Radical and how the GB4 cars kind of advanced that for you.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of differences. I mean, the Radical doesn't have slick tyres, it's all groove tyres. So there's a lot of different things in how you sort of set up going into laps, how you set up going into a race as well, and also just how you're driving it once you're out there, because one of them sort of in Radical you're sort of always under driving to try and make sure the tyres don't overheat, whereas in this it's always trying to get heat in straight away using the brakes, using, you know, trying to weave all over the place, whatever you can do to get the heat in it. So it's something new to get used to. Also, you know, there's more aero. And yeah, there's some similarities, there's some differences, but at the moment I'm loving the change, and yeah, just trying something new and see how it goes.
Now, tricky conditions at the moment. Obviously, I'm sure you've raced in quite a bit of that. What are you kind of expecting from the weekend?
Honestly, no idea so far. I mean, we're going into it very unprepared compared to a lot of people. We've done very little in terms of driving a single-seater, so we'll have to see what we can do. I mean, yeah, I think obviously I want to go for podiums and I want to go for wins, and I think our pace is actually there in the dry. In the wet, we've done literally nothing. So if it stays wet, which is looking like it will be for quali, we'll see. But I think in the dry, we've got the pace. We just need to see, because everything's new.
Right, we're down here at Elite Motorsport with Finn Harrison, one of our new drivers. Finn, it's maybe not the conditions you would have wanted to make your GB4 debut. Do you feel you're ready? Are you up there? Are you ready to go?
We did a lot of testing here in the winter, obviously in Jet Junior. Done a lot in Spain, doesn't really help now, but I'm ready for it. We did one good practice session on Thursday, I think it was, and that we were quick at. I'm quite comfortable and ready for it.
It's a little bit disappointing to have Friday completely wiped out by the rain, but the conditions out there were ridiculous. You wouldn't have really got much useful running out of it. But I think you've tested here before?
Yeah, we did 3 test days here before, a few weeks ago, and they were nice and lovely and dry.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, at least you know the track, you know where you're aiming for. The conditions are something else you're going to have to contend with. What are you aiming for this weekend then? Is it something you're looking to do next year?
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to doing this next year. For me, the goal, there's not really any pressure or goals the weekend, just go out and enjoy it and learn how to race in single-seater.
Amazing. What kind of experience have you had so far? Have you been in other cars, or have you been sim racing? I mean, what's your background?
Really from go-kart straight to Ginetta, and then we've been testing this. I think we started testing it in September. Quite honestly, I'm ready for whatever I get given. It's a nice car, it's lovely to drive, loads of grip in the wet, loads of grip in the dry, downforce. Great way to learn for in the future.
Yeah, what more can you need? And finally, you know, it's good to chat to new drivers about what got them into the sport. Is there a particular driver or someone in your life that inspired you to get into motorsport?
Went into go-karting. I think I went to Fernando Alonso Academy just for a bit of fun for a week, and then fell in love with the sport.
Excellent stuff.
I was a snowboarder after that and a surfer, which I still do. So yeah, motorsport took over.
I was going to say, you like extreme stuff, you like stuff where there's some element of calculated danger.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, go well in your first weekend here, and hopefully we'll see you on the grid next year as well.
Hopefully, and I'm looking forward to next year as well.
Awesome. Cheers, Ben. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm now down here at Fortec with Dan Hickey, who's making his debut this weekend in the GB4 Championship. You know, you've been in the car, you've done a bit of testing, but this is the first time you're going to race. How are you feeling about it all?
I'm really excited, to be honest. It's going to be a good experience, a lot of learning. Definitely going to be a challenge, but we're going to see what we can do.
And obviously you're teaming up here with Fortec, which means you're working with Nicholas Taylor, who was the inaugural GB4 champion last year. Has he given you some good advice?
Yeah, he's been giving me some good advice. It's obviously good having Nick's experience, obviously being the champion last year, so a lot of learning from Nick, and also I've got my coach Ollie Webb here as well, so he's been giving me a lot of advice, so yeah.
Excellent. What's your experience so far then? You're 21, so you've got a bit of experience in racing. What have you done before coming here on your journey into GB4?
Well, to be honest, this is my first competitive race, so I've done a little bit of karting here and there, but this would be my first single-seater race and first car race as well. So
yeah, so you're going right in at the deep end.
Yeah.
But I'm sensing that you're relishing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be, like I say, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but it's something I look forward to. And again, we're just going to see what we can sort of achieve.
Well, look, we're all looking forward to seeing what happens. What's been your inspiration? Who got you into motor racing? Who made you want to be here? Is it a family member? Is it a driver? Who?
It's more my family, to be honest. It's sort of like a very car-orientated family. None of my family have actually done racing, but a lot of driving and stuff like that. So it's more sort of my dad's side. So sort of getting into it through that, and then sort of the passions just sort of come through to me. So
nice. Are they all here to watch and celebrate?
Yeah, they're all coming here. Some of them are coming today, but most of them are all coming tomorrow. My dad's here today, my sister here today. But yeah, a lot of them are coming tomorrow.
Amazing. Well, I hope they brought a coat, because it's not the best weather here at Donington Park.
Yeah,
but Dan,
exactly. Yeah, typical.
Well, yeah, isn't it? We obviously had yesterday wiped out as well, which must have been tricky for you to have one less day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we were here obviously Thursday, a bit of a mixed conditions Thursday, a bit wet in the morning, but then dry in the afternoon. So we're going to see what today brings.
Let's ride around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit on board the Fortec car of Colin Queen. A downhill run to turn 1 of Redgate. Using all of the road on the left-hand side, you'll see uses the pit exit to open up the entry. Down to 4th gear, quite a fast apex here, and watch out for track limits on the exit, as we now have a long run down to the old hairpin, through Hollywood on the right, just staying right, trying to minimise any steering input. Left to the Craner curves, keep it left. To open up the entry into the old hairpin very fast, down just 1 gear, all the curb on the entry, all the curb on the exit. We now rise up through Starkeys, over to the right hand side, just setting ourselves up through Swamps for a good entry into McLean's. McLean's is off camber and on the crest of a hill, so can often push you wide, as we've seen Colin's done that time. Then using all the curb on the left hand side to open up Coppice Corner. This is a long exit here, so trying not to run too wide. And now we have the long run down past the exhibition centre. All we have to think about now is the braking point for Fogarty, which is a very, very fast and bumpy chicane. Braking down 2 gears, 4th gear, 1 apex, 2 apexes, 140 kilometres an hour through there. And then just 2 more sharp corners to go. The first is the Melbourne hairpin. Braking downhill very late, down to 2nd gear, late apex for a good run out of the corner, trying to minimise wheel spin. Car looks planted through there, Fortec doing a good job on the setup. And the final corner, Goddard's again off camber, blind on entry, trying to hook the curb on the inside if you can, slightly missing it this time out, and then a good exit out of the last corner to finish our lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit.
Well, it's late in the year, Max. The sun's coming down. Last time we were here at Donington Park for GB4, the sun was right properly in the middle of the sky. Now it's just disappearing over that building over there. But the track has been drying in the GB3 Championship. And actually, Max, you were in the awnings there just as there was a mad panic. Just to tell us what was going on just back there.
Well, I was actually on a bit of a spy mission through the GT paddock to see what was going on, because they were all having their qualifying session. So it's like, what are they doing? Let's see what they're doing with, with all their data and stuff. And it was complete pandemonium. Like, some people were going slick, some people were going wet, some people were trying to change mid-session. And the circuit was drying, but very, very slowly. And in the end, I think all the pros went to the dry tyre. That was the quickest option, but it's still not dry times yet. They're still a little bit off them. And even when we look at the circuit now, there's a clear dry line, but offline, if you hit that, a spray's still going to come up. It's still extremely, extremely wet. So it's been a bit of a panic for all the teams to make this cool. It looks like everyone's gone with the dry tyre, which is the right call.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we saw Zach Ping was on wet tyres when he first came to the assembly area here. He's now gone onto dry tyres, he's on slicks. They're all on slicks, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've changed them. While we've been talking here, they've changed them. But I think that's probably the right decision, because we saw in the GB3 race maybe an hour ago that it was too dry for the wets, but too wet for the slicks. So it's you kind of had to make a decision, and we saw drivers there behind the safety car sort of weaving in and out, and we saw Nico Christodoulou was one of the drivers dipping wheels off the track onto the grass, because I guess if you're on the wet tyres, then when it is dry conditions, they just get shredded completely, and then you're just going to lose them and they just drop off.
Yeah, exactly. They'll actually overheat and that limit of grip will be so much lower than if you can actually keep them nice and cool. So with this, as I say, perfect to be on the dry tyre, but now this race is all about the warm-up lap. It's all about who can get the heat in the tyre, and from that can have the best first lap without going onto the wet to overtake people or to have to fend. That's going to be crucial in this race.
Yeah, we heard from Cooper Webster before, double pole position, so we don't need to hear from him. We haven't actually heard from Liam McNeely, so I'm just going to have a quick word with Liam and see how he's feeling, because obviously he's one of these drivers that's vying for second place now. We know Tom Mills has won the championship, we know that KML Sport are the team's champions, but let's just see how Liam's feeling, if he's got a moment to talk to us. Liam, just a quick question, what's your plan into the first corner, because you and Cooper are very much in the hunt for second place?
Yeah. Corner, a big part of the race, but I think it's all about just getting past the first corner and hopefully, staying on the back of Cooper and hopefully, challenging him throughout the race.
And obviously all the drivers here on slicks now. When was that decision made? How long ago?
I think the British GT qualifying, really made our decision. Obviously the pros in GT3 went on slicks, and that made our final decision then.
Now Max, you've obviously raced in these very, very cars and you know them inside out. When it comes to this track here at Donington, is there one place that you don't want the track to be a little bit more wet than you expected it to be?
Craners, because it's in these cars it's still easy flat in the dry. In the wet it's a bit iffy with that, so if there's something like a puddle there that you hit or you're applying that's going to be very, very on the edge. Coppice we saw last year where Sherwood from pole position on the warm-up lap lost it and ended up in the gravel in similar conditions to what it is now. That could catch people out again through that corner.
Okay, I've got to ask you a question, right, because there's a lot of myths when it comes to Donington Park, and we've just seen planes taking off from East Midlands Airport. One driver from GB4 last year told me that there's concerns over jet fuel on the track. Is that a myth?
It is a myth that the jet fuel goes onto the circuit and then basically when it's wet it makes it even worse. But it's not like an unbelievable myth, because the jets, we just saw 5 minutes ago, they fly so low here and they're always going over, so whatever's coming out of them will end up on the circuit, and then that will play up, especially as it gets wetter. I thought I heard one coming in or landing around them.
I think that might have been a McLaren, but
yeah.
it's a similar thing to make. Obviously, when things fall out of planes, there are other myths about things falling out of planes, maybe toilets. I can guarantee you, toilets are not getting empty. Right, I don't know what's going on because there's actually cars going out on the track for the race before. I don't know whether that's restarted or been red flagged or something like that, but there's a little bit of a delay here, but we'll notice the cars have all turned off now, so I don't know what's going on here. We're going to maybe just walk down and we're going to talk about Lucas Blakely, because I don't know how much sim racing you've done, Max, because when Lucas Blakely came in, we were like, okay, so he's the F1 world champion on the game. How does he put those skills into the real world? And he was very, very strong the first time we were here at Donington. He's now back, he's got a full race weekend under his belt, and he's shown some really quick pace, and it might be a way that things change when it comes to where drivers come from, because drivers move up through karting and yada yada yada. Now when there's such good sim racing that's so realistic, we may end up seeing more drivers, the shift, and more drivers coming from the sort of sim world to real life racing.
Yes, no. I think Sim's definitely, it's the most accessible, which makes it so great. Anyone can download iRacing or the F1 game for it's still a cost, but it's a much smaller cost than it would be to get involved straight from karting or car racing. So it's very accessible. Anyone can do it, and if you can put that devotion and time into sim racing that you could in an actual car, then yeah, there'd definitely be some kind of potential. It is moving your feet and your hands, but there is still a massive difference from the sim to the real life. There's not the same sense of feel, there's not the fear factor, there's not the variables that you have from dry to wet. That's what's impressed me more with Blakely today, is the fact that it was raining. In the F1 games, when it rains, there's not that much of a difference to when it's dry. You don't have aquaplaning or puddles that are different every lap. Rather, you do have those variables when you're actually on circuit. So for him to deal with that is, I think, very impressive for someone who is relatively green to real life racing.
We did hear from our commentator, who is an amateur sim racer, Lewis McGlade. He is a 2-time Simmy award-winning commentator. He wanted me to mention that. I think he just wants to, just drop that in there now and again. But he does a lot of sim racing for fun, not professionally. And he was saying that sometimes if it is a hot place, like he's racing in the Middle East, he will put the heating up slightly to give him that feel. I mean, you can kind of recreate it, but I think he's clutching at straws a little bit there. Maybe open the windows if it is raining outside and get a wet steering wheel or something. I don't know. Let's move back here and look at some of the other drivers then. We've got Dan Hickey that's driving with Fortec. Towards the back here, we can see Ollie Dutton and the team with Fortec behind us. When it comes to what he's been doing here, here, this is his teammate Adi Kolkani here, where you can see them getting ready with Nicholas Taylor, your arch enemy from last year in the GB4
I have to
Championship.
say, look what amazing hat he's wearing. It's
that
a really good hat.
Can we go closer on that hat?
That's
Ben?
a really... The style that Taylor's got has clearly improved in the year.
Just talk me through this hat, Max, because I think I recognise that logo.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it's clearly suddenly got an interest in fashion.
That's the Max Maserati signature hat. What's the company that you've collaborated with on that one?
So the company was called Black Phoenix. I think their website's still up, so you can still buy the products of the hat and the t-shirts and stuff. But yeah, as you were saying with the...
Did Nick buy the hat, or did you give him one? He gave him one, didn't you?
Yeah, I gave him one. Okay,
that's fine. Nicholas Taylor here is the champion that obviously you were racing with last year. Great to have. I mean, if you're Adi Kolkani right now, just having Nicholas Taylor there, giving you that insight, and I know that's what you do with your drivers, Max. That's it's kind of invaluable, especially when these conditions are, for these drivers, sometimes the first times they've driven this kind of car in these kinds of conditions.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive having that kind of input. I just want to say that my other driver here, Seb Murray. Qualifying was his second ever time in the wet round here, second ever session in the wet round this circuit. So he's done a really good job to out-qualify the people he has. That was also his first ever day round Donington. This is only his second ever day round Donington since we lost the Friday.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on the back foot, but he's learning rapidly. This will be his third session now ever on dry tyres around this circuit, compared to all the others who've done the previous round and previous practice sessions.
When it comes to missing out an entire day of testing when you're at this level of driving, how much does that impact, the time in the car?
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Like any sport, it's practice. And GB4 is a learning formula. This is where you come from karting and other ways to learn single-seater, and it's about that learning. And you've got to do your time here to learn your craft. And really, you should move on only when you've actually learned everything you can learn from this formula.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention Dan Hickey, by the way. So he's a little bit further back, starting third last there. But, number 10 car, one to look out for, because I chatted to him earlier, and I know he's been testing. I think he's been testing for as long as GB4 has been around. I think he was testing early last year. And it's good to see him finally on the grid here and looking at his options. We did hear from him just before there. But with 4 new drivers on the grid, if you're a more experienced driver, such as you were having done British F3 a couple of years back, are you a little bit, wary of rookie drivers when they're especially taking part in their first race in these conditions? Because if you're looking for a certain position in the championship, if you're one of the guys going for second place, if one of those drivers gets in your way and maybe they're just not up to speed with things, no fault of their own, it's just their experience levels, does that make you a little bit wary?
Yeah, first couple races you should be okay because you should have out-qualified them and not have to deal with them. Reverse grid race, if they qualify within the 103% rule, definitely, but more for qualifying, it makes those early laps crucial. Because no disrespect to them, but when you're that early, you're more likely to make mistakes, more likely to go off, cause a red flag, and that means that could impact you. There's a red flag, you don't get your session in, you don't get the laps in, suddenly you end up not qualifying where you should do, and it makes your life a lot harder for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, really, really tricky. I also want to highlight, and we will speak to all of the drivers before the weekend's over, the number 3 car there with KMR Sport. That's Jack Clifford, the Australian driver, who we've spoken to quite a lot throughout this season, and he's had an up and down season. He's had some good moments and he's had some slightly more tricky moments. Jack has got an amazing amount of family here, and we're going to try and find some of Jack's family this weekend, because it's so cool that he has travelled across from Australia. He's 16 years old. He's living on the border of England and Wales. He's down near where the team are based in North Gloucestershire. And to move yourself across the country, across the world, and come and do this, it shows amazing kind of growth in terms of who you are as a person. But this weekend, his dad's been over from Australia before, but now he's got family from all kinds of places in the UK. I think he's got relatives from down in Cornwall that have come along, some people from friends he's made from a little place called Withington in Herefordshire, where he's based. And like for him, you know, we're hoping for a good result because, you know, when people make such an effort for a young driver who's, I have to say, done remarkably well to settle in a completely different country, you know, it's really good to give them a good show.
Yeah, you know, that obviously would be hard for him. He's had to have grown up very quickly. You know, you have to have a very adult head on your shoulders to move away from home, away from your family at such a young age, making friends, you know, of, you know, a completely new place, you know, culturally. Getting used to fish and chips and all these
all these unhealthy British foods.
The British weather.
Terrible
you know,
surfing. I mean,
yeah.
All these differences. No Aussie rules.
Exactly.
I mean, if he wants to watch sport back home, it's on in the middle of the night. Yeah. All the people back home who want to watch him race on this stream, and hello if you are watching right now, they're having to watch in the middle of the night, and it's a day behind. What's that all about? Question for you. I think the cars are going to be going out in the next couple of minutes or so, but Jack Clifford's moved here. He's moved his life across here for this time, and he's completely immersed himself. Compare that to Cooper Webster, who's been racing, you know, in a series in Australia, flying all the way over here to come and race at, you know, different racetracks around the UK, at Donington, at Silverstone, and everywhere we've raced in GB4. Which would you rather do? Because for me, that's very disruptive, and obviously it works for him because he's doing incredibly well.
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, to be fair, in Cooper's point of view, he's also been racing in Australia, so he's just been jumping back and forth, which I get. But if I knew I was going to be stationed at somewhere for the year and that was it, I'd rather go live there because it's a better way to get in, you know, in with the team. You know, at the end of the day, like teams and all this, they're like your friends, they're like your family, and if you are that close with them, then it basically means that, you know, when it comes down to doing that last little bit of work, then maybe, you know, the mechanics will just put in that little bit more. You know, everyone just puts in that little bit more effort because they like each other. It's much better than someone who flies in, shows up, walks around like, you know, like they're a playboy of sorts, and then leaves as if, like, you know, not saying thank you, not helping, not appreciating the time and effort that these guys are doing. Then, you know, that's a very different.
Of course, we're not saying that he's done that. And we're
No.
we're not saying he's a playboy, and we're B, not saying that he's flown and not said thanks to anyone.
Yeah.
I'm sure he says thanks more than enough. Colin Queen is another driver that's come across from the United States, and actually we saw Colin last weekend. We heard him on the stream of the GB3 Championship, and he was actually out there with Fortec. His team he's driving for now, starting at P3 here, but he was actually over there looking at what they're doing, and, you know, Zandvoort was, again, if you're not racing and you're not involved in it, it wasn't a particularly nice place to be with the weather, because it was incredibly windy right by the beach there, lots of rain as well.
Yeah.
And he was putting himself out there, and I think if you're a team, and I suppose, you know, if you're a driver coach and you're coaching a young driver like that, you know, seeing the eagerness to be around the team, even when you're not racing, is probably a good thing.
It massively helps, and you feel better, you feel more confident with the driver that you've got. You know, the teams, you know, the team owners are all so passionate about the sport, and then it's nice to have that reflected when you've got a driver who is the same.
Well, look, I'm going to take the microphone off you. Don't go just yet, because I don't want you to get to take it away from the car. Okay, we'll hold that. Max Maserati, thank you very much for your insight. Just getting in my ear that this race will be slightly shorter, just because the race before, as we kind of speculated, had been overrun slightly. So we'll have a 15-minute race here in the GB4 Championship. It's the first race of the season. Well, it's not actually. It's the first race of this weekend here at Donington Park. It's the second time we've visited here this season, and so you can see the cars behind me going out on track. So it's time to hand over to Lewis McGlade, and let's go racing for the first time in the GB4 Championship here this weekend at Donington.
Well, it couldn't be more different than it was in qualifying a bit earlier on today, where it was wet, it was tricky, it was difficult. You were seeing them all out there in the assembly area, all out on slick tyres. Yes, indeed, we are ready to go for the final weekend in GB4 in 2023. I thought it's been a long season. We've already crowned our champion. Tom Mills already has the title, and KMR Sport are our team's champions, which means for everyone else, it is a hunt for glory, a hunt for the runner-up spot as well in the race for the championship. Of course, Cooper Webster, one of those drivers to look for taking that. It should be a lot of fun. We'll see them in a moment rolling on towards turn 1, which is where they're headed for present, of course, and getting ready for the race, where we've got a slightly shortened one this time. It'll be just 15 minutes long rather than the standard 18 minutes. And yeah, it should be a fun one, should be an interesting one, should be a tricky one indeed, because whilst they're on slick tyres, it is damp offline. You can kind of see that there. There is a racing line. It is dry, but it is not wide. That is going to be the tricky part. That is going to be the bit they're all going to have to balance their way through as they head into the final race weekend. We'll see the qualifying order. Cooper Webster starting from pole position once again this season, alongside Liam McNeely, his main rival, for second in the championship, looking to try and get a record-breaking podium streak this weekend. If he gets all 3 podiums, he'll have 8 podiums in a row. No one's ever done that before. Colin Queen will start his way from third, with Zach Ping starting alongside an All-American second row on the grid for VRD Racing. We've seen some great pace out of Zach Ping. Hopefully that continues. Of course, the reigning F1 esports champion Lucas Blakely will start from 5th position, along with debutant Finn Harrison for Elite Motorsports, bringing their name back into the GB4 Championship. He'll be starting from 6th position and seemed very calm, cool and collected in the interviews before all of this. Harry Burgoyne Jr. will start from 7th position. Of course, there'll be no bias in the commentary booth towards him. Jack Clifford will start from 8th place in the KMR Sport, of course, the team that have already been crowned champions. Dia McKerrison, his debut will start from 9th position before we get to Sid Smith, a bit further down the order than maybe where he'd want to be, especially considering he's been building up on pace all year long. He'll be starting from 10th position. But this is a record-breaking grid for GB4 when it comes to its size, so we keep on going. Aditya Kulkarni will start from 11th position, with Sebastian Murray for Graham Brunton Racing starting his way from 12th. And there's still even more rows behind this as we get to Dylan Hodgson, Dan Hickey on his debut. Of course, those two qualifying comfortably clear. Lexi Belk and Thomas Lee, the final 2 on the road. A lot of those drivers, I think it's 6 drivers down the back end, were not, though, within the 103% rule, so they will not be starting from the reverse grid further up the order. It's more, the reason why I'm pointing that out is because there's a bit of pace differential, and for Lexi Belk, there is already problems. Not sure what's happened there. I'm joined in the comedy box, of course, by Max Maserati, and yeah, I wonder what's happened here.
Yeah, that's such a shame. This is the first race in single-seaters. You only get that once. And, you know, that's a bit heartbreaking. Not even make the grid.
No, I can't work out what would happen there. It's not. We don't typically see mechanicals issues with these cars, so I'm not sure what it could have been.
I'm not either. That
yeah,
we'll
I won't put you on the spot. Don't worry.
Until we know. But that's that's a real shame. That's a real shame.
Well, either way, we are going to get a race underway. Yes, slightly shortened by 3 minutes down to 15. Cooper Webster will start this one from pole position. I already saw him crawling a little bit, but he did manage to arrest that, so I don't think there'll be any penalty of any description. But he starts to work his way down towards turn 1. It is Cooper Webster leading from pole position. Liam McNeely having to fend off the charge, and an excellent start from Lucas Blakely. He's going to try and get around the outside and going to try and put his KMR Sport car into second. It's a fantastic move for the F1 Esports World Champion.
Look at them all squirming out there, trying to. Do you see how they all try to get as much to the left as possible to stay where it's dry? This is what it's all about. Trying to stay. Like, oh, he's gone whitey. This is what happens when you go onto the. Is he gonna hold that together? That's
Ping.
Yeah, Ping. Like, it's so hard to stick exactly on the dry line when you're trying to make up ground and positions.
Yeah, when you go off that line, I get the feeling that you probably just like clench and hope. You just sort of like, okay, if I don't do anything too extreme, hopefully the car will be fine. And especially coming down the crane as they're up towards the old hairpin, it's so sketchy as you come up and over that that final the drop off down towards the end, I guess.
Exactly, and this is all about trying to. Oh no, there goes Seb. It's all about trying to hold the heat in the tyres as much as you possibly can. As soon as you lose it, that's it.
Now, with my rudimentary understanding of diffs, would all the power go to the other wheel? And I was wondering if he was going to get stuck there a little bit.
No, he was going to be okay. He was going to be okay at that point. Harry's lost a little bit of ground. Oh, right through the gravel goes Kulkarni.
Okay, so that is just Sebastian Murray. That's not him going off again. That is him just getting it back round and getting thrown out of the gravel trap, taking the shortest route, although he's going to have a lot of stones and stuff in his car. But he does manage to continue, no safety car required. So good stuff there from Murray. Here's Lucas Blakely then defending for that second position. Of course, Liam McNeely still in position for that podium, but would like a little bit more from this one. Unfortunately, that race victory is going to be a bit too far down the road. Blakely's had a mistake.
This is what, again, he just went that little bit wide. And Kulkarni's gone. Kulkarni's gone as well. Look at them all. This is, I mean, it's amazing for us to watch. It's so difficult out there trying to keep heating the tyres. It means you have to stay on the line. As soon as you go off the line, Kulkarni, is he pitting?
No, I think that Kulkarni might have done, but I think there was someone else coming into the pit lane with them. I mean, let's be honest, this is about as hard as it'll get. That was Dan Hickey, by the way, who came into the pit lane. This is as hard as it gets. You're talking slick tyres, you're talking quite a cool track, and you're talking it's wet. This could not get harder.
This couldn't, and Ping almost hit the back of Blakely there. Look, Blakely obviously lost a lot of heat in his tyres when he went off, and then Ping went off himself. We just saw at the old hairpin. They're just squirming around trying to make up places. That was a bit wide there from, I think, Theo behind, but he's gained a little bit of ground.
Yeah, of course, Mercurius does have a fair amount of experience racing in radicals and stuff in the UK, of course, being champions and such in that. He's got a lot of experience when it comes to sim racing in these style of open wheelers, but doing it on the track is a very different thing. And he was saying that, you know, having the testing day, big moment there from Colin Queen, having the testing day going,
come on, Harry,
going from the last, from yesterday, he's kind of on the back foot a little bit here, as are most of the grid, but he's seeming to find his speed. Harry Burgoyne Jr. trying to get past Zach Pink, big lock up there in the foreground. As well from Lucas Blakely heading down to the hairpin.
Yeah, it looks like Harry's just trying to play it smart instead of like trying to pass him off the racing line. Another big lock up there. This corner seems to be the most treacherous. This is where we saw things kicking off earlier. Will we see anything happen again this time round? Ping's going to run a little bit wide there. Jess stays on the road on the exit.
I mean, you're a driver coach now. You're obviously keeping an eye on that number 68. What are your thoughts right now? Kind of looking over this and thinking, right, what do I need to tell my driver after this race? I mean, how do you coach someone through a race like this?
It's so difficult. But at the minute he's doing it perfectly. He's just lap down. Okay, there we go. He just needs to basically do what he's doing, stay on the racing line, don't need to make these big risks. He's fighting for a top 5 in the championship, and he's in perfect position for that now, especially with Kulkarni, I think, having to come to the pit lane or after he got spun around.
I think Kulkarni's actually just dropped back down the order. He's not come into the pit lane. It was Hickey into the pit lane, and that's where the lap time has come from. By the way, speaking of the race lead, just want to touch on that one a little bit whilst we can see Zach Ping coming through the lights of McLean's and Coppice. Out wide goes Jack Clifford in the back as well. Got to stay off that green sort of painted concrete as well. Fastest lap on the last one was to Liam McNeely by a couple of tenths of a second, but on this lap he is going faster by almost a second. Right now in just 2 sectors over our race leader Kuba Webster. So things are coming down for the race lead.
Oh, who's that Hickey got in the way there? And that's going to allow Harry and Theo to have the run. This is going to get close into the hairpin.
Certainly so. Obviously, Ping trying to take the defensive line. Harry Burgoyne Jr. worried about the charge. And there's also Jack Clifford out of nowhere. And it's absolutely taken out. And there's more stuff in the background as that's all kind of unfolded courtesy of Clifford straight into the rear end. Sid Smith's lost his rear wing, as, of course, as Theo Mercurius, who we're looking at there.
Kulkarni's picked up all the pieces from it.
That was pretty average.
It's just, I know exactly how it happened. You get on the wet, you try and brake later, and the next thing you know, you're steaming in. It's so difficult. It's so hard to do. This is actually worse than when it's full wet. That's the best way to describe it. When it's full wet, it's at least consistently full wet. And Sid Smith is trying to hang on without a rear wing. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work, especially not on the wet.
And he will know that he's not got a rear wing. He'll have checked his mirrors and think, hang on, something's missing in there. That, to be fair, I've got to say, let's give a bit of a hand to some pretty incredible car control there. The amount of downforce you lose when you lose a rear wing, and I've always said in a car like this, you can kind of handle without a front wing. Without a rear wing, it's a death trap.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and it seems in this sector, it's quite interesting watching this battle between Ping and Harry, because they definitely seem to be quicker at different points in the circuit. Also, a big thing with this race, I think we saw with Webster, is when you go with the type of... here's a replay of what happened.
This is, so you can see Clifford just straight in there, bang into the rear. So that was where Mercurius went round. And because McNeely had tried slowing, I think that was the 10 of Hickey, who was trying to get out of the way, who then was trying to get back onto the racing line. I mean, like I say, it's a big cluster. it's such an easy mistake to make. Like you say, to misjudge your brake zone in conditions like this. I'm actually surprised there might have been a safety car in that, less so for the cars getting out of the way, more so for the amount of debris that was just around.
Yeah, I didn't get to see then that corner again, so I don't know if there's been a brave marshal who's run out and actually cleared it.
There might have been.
They're still going around. Sid, no, Sid.
Surely he's going to get a meatball though.
I think he will.
The black and orange flag, which will mean that he has to come into the pit lane for forced mechanical repairs. No, I was going to say that's a surprise.
They've just let him get on with it.
I think maybe they thought surely he'd come back into the pit lane.
Clifford's got to come in. If that front wing goes underneath his car, that could be quite bad. He's got a pit.
Yeah, certainly. So I think he will be coming straight back into the pit lane. Let's focus on the race that we actually have, though. Fastest lap of the race on the previous one, though, going the way of Liam McNeely, and he is charging right now. Absolutely closing down to the rear end of this driver here, Cooper Webster. Of course, the gap was, what, 3.5 seconds? It is now just 2.1. The gap is closing. Will it close enough?
What was... Yeah, I think it could. Half a second a lap. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Big time. Although it has just gone out in the middle sector, courtesy of Cooper Webster actually setting a decent one. Is this Cooper Webster managing the race potentially?
Potentially, but at the same time, I think if I was in these guys' shoes, I'd just be trying to go flat out to the end because you can't risk losing tyre temp. It's too cold out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of people kind of think when it comes to like managing a race. There is that whole thing of. You see it in Formula 1 and that kind of stuff of people going, okay, you're right, you're in the lead, manage it, drive slower. Especially in this, that would be very counterproductive, I feel.
It really would. And I think as well, I think what's happened, Webster was very strong in that first lap, so they might have gone high on the tyre pressures. And now it's starting to overheat. The race is starting to come to McNeely, who might have gone lower on them.
Right, gotcha. So there might, I guess it's, you don't have too much that you can do setup-wise on these cars, but things like that, you're kind of preparing a car that will be strong early in the race, but it will be weaker later, and everything like that is you're kind of playing for certain negatives, but trying to find out what positive you can get in it.
Yes, exactly, and we can actually see McNeely's gone purple again in that first sector, and bearing in mind that's a very small sector, but he's actually found 1/10 and a half to Cooper, so he's really reining in the time. He's got to hook this middle sector up now to keep making the gains he is.
With them setting 1 minute 30 lap times, by the way. Once they come round to the line this time by, there'll be 4 laps left to go. So it's 4.5 if you really want to play it by numbers like that. As we can see, Jack Clifford out wide, fresh front wing onto his car, of course, just allowing the number 19 of Theo Mercouris to come into the pit lane. By the way, I was calling it as Mercouris earlier on in the race. It was actually Harrison. I do apologise.
Oh, right. So was Harrison the one who was hit?
Harrison was the one who was hit by Clifford, yes. Okay. I do apologise. I am blind.
Okay, so he's not a lap down, that he's still going, Theo.
Yes, so Theo Mercouris, the current driver that we're looking at here, is in 7th position. I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of the order. Cooper Webster is leading from Liam McNeely. Lucas Blakely is in 3rd position at the moment. Colin Queen in 4th. Zach Ping, Harry Burgoyne Jr., Theo Mercouris. Then we have Sid Smith in 8th position with Kulkarni in 9th, Hotchin in 10th. We do have a few more runners with Lee, who's in 11th position, Sebastian Murray, who's running around in 12th. Then Clifford is a lap down on the field. And then, of course, we've got Harrison, Hickey and Belk, all retirements from this race, although Belk technically counts as they did not start.
Again, another 3/10, but he's losing it in the middle sector. That's where Webster is slightly outdoing McNeely, and unfortunately that's the biggest sector. But 2/10 in the first sector, what's going to happen now in this middle one?
Well, we've got Dylan Hotchin on screen at the moment, who is looking for back-to-back top 10s. Of course, did have a top 10 earlier on in the season at Alton Park, but looking like it's a stronger run this weekend for Dylan Hotchin, which we do quite like to see because, for one, I think that livery is top-notch, and I love all of the branding stuff they put on the paddock. The stuff with the motorhome, the stuff with like even the golf cart. I didn't even realise there is branding on the wheel in the car, like the steering wheel, which I love.
Yeah, they've done a really, really great job dressing that car up, and it's nice to see him progressing. You know, he came into this as a privateer, the first privateer I think in GB4,
much, yeah.
And you know that's so hard to do. A privateer versus teams like Fortec, GBR, Evans, you know, like Fox Motorsport. These are professional teams that you are competing with.
Yeah.
So it's really great to see that GB4, you know, is an open enough competition that privateers can come and compete in.
Yeah, big time, and it's great to see them family run affair. Let's take a look at what happened to Colin Queen. This is how he lost out the podium position to, oh sorry, rather it was 4th position to Zach Ping. So that costly mistake there from Colin Queen. I did say this when we were doing the pre-show. The thing with Colin Queen is he's got the speed, but he's just made a few too many mistakes around here. Mistakes that you probably would have rather his driver coach made last year. But we'll say that for Nicholas Taylor a bit later on. 3 minutes 30 seconds left to go in the race. Fastest
wide again. Look, and he's all in the. Is he going to let him go? Oh, that was very close.
He didn't want to light up the rears or make any make worse of a bad situation. He might actually lose out to Mercurius here.
He's letting people go. You think he's got an issue? Oh, McNeely's really closed in here.
Yes, this is what I was about to say. The fastest lap on the previous one was actually just set by McNeely, 8/10 clear of Cooper Webster. So when it comes to the lap times that were just set, so McNeely is closing in rapidly. The gap was 1 second. There'll be 2 laps left to go here, and they've got Thomas Lee as lap trafficker for good measure.
And he's really held up Cooper. That's really, and now he's letting him go. Oh, this is really closed them in. We're gonna have a very exciting. No, don't get in the way of McNeely now. Now McNeely's had to go onto the wet.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's evened it out. He's lost the time that he gained from it.
We'll see what it is when it comes to the line. Purple second sector for Cooper Webster. The gap as they cross the line is 1.3 seconds. It's gone out 0.3 of an advantage in favour of Cooper Webster, our race leader. I'll once again run you through the order. Cooper Webster, McNeely, Blakely, the top 3. Ping and Queen inside that top 5. Harry Burgoyne Jr. with Dia Mercurius. Although Harry Burgoyne Jr. of course getting past Colin Queen. Mercurius also up to 6th position. McQueen is dropping back down the order. I think he might be returning his way to pit lane, but that was the top 6. I'll let you know where Queen drops down to. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in this race. There'll be 2 more laps for Cooper Webster to try and hang on for his 3rd victory in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC.
Both a bit wide there. They're pushing so hard. You know, definitely when we were speaking about managing or not, Cooper's definitely not now. Now he's got Liam all over him in his mirrors.
And they're running, I think they're running about a second, maybe it seems like 2 and a bit seconds faster than they were running earlier on in the race. And bearing in mind, this is a 15-minute race. We're obviously in a race against the conditions and a little bit against the light, hence the slightly shorter race time, as we can see there. There is a look on the left side of your screen where you can see the order, and you can, again, see that purple check next to McNeely. He is flying right now.
Yeah, it's again faster in the first sector. Again, losing a little bit in the middle, but look how much he's gained in this last sector again.
Yeah, he's once again. These two are very close. They were actually quite close for pace, if I remember correctly. Last time racing Donington Park, I think McNeely was a little bit further off. It was really the top 3, which was Webster. Then, of course, it was Colin Queen and Tom Mills was ahead of those. Really close between the 3 of those. But McNeely has been stepping up all season long. Again, this will be his 6th consecutive podium, showing how strong he's been this year.
Yeah, and that, you know, consistency means points, which means prizes.
Yeah.
So this will, I think, certify him making sure he gets in the top 3 of the championship. Obviously, the battle for second between, I think, these two, McNeely and Webster.
Yeah, I'll double check it. Of course, the gap for Webster to secure that second position, it needs to be 70 points. It will not be more than 70 points at this point, so it does move on into Sunday's competition. But Webster will obviously be pulling out more of a margin courtesy of a potential victory.
Yeah, they've still got 1 sector to go. I think McNeely's just a little bit too far back. He needed 1 more lap to really be able to do a challenge, but brilliant race from the both of them. I think they both pulled quite a gap over, 10 seconds over the next car.
Is this, so for McNeely now, is it just full send into the final 2 corners and just hope? Or
yeah,
not?
you've got to try and get the most out of it. I mean, if Cooper sees you in the mirrors and makes a mistake, or you've got to be there.
Yeah.
You've got to be there to capitalise on it.
Absolutely. Well, into the final corners once again. Cooper Webster, the driver that sits 2nd in the championship, the driver that's looking to secure that one this weekend, the driver that came into it as the favourite to take victories this weekend, will take one of those. It is a 3rd win in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, going to Cooper Webster, but he was fought to the line by Liam McNeely in a brilliant display. Behind all of that, I know there'll be a bit of a fan favourite one for Lucas Blakely onto the podium. That is a fantastic effort from a driver who's not really got that much experience when it comes to real racing. Of course, he's done some stuff in Formula 4, he's done some stuff at Race of Champions, but this is a whole nother level.
Yeah, and a really good, again, P4, P5 for Harry there. Oh, lock off from Kulkarni. That's going to let go.
Oh my goodness, there was definite contact. and that was silly contact as well, because I'm pretty sure were they fighting actually for position in all of that, or
no, Clifford was a lap down.
I thought so. So that was the absolute definition of unnecessary.
Yeah, just so wasn't needed, and I think the blame's pretty clear there as well.
Yeah.
It was. It's not. Wasn't an incident.
Well, anyway, let's talk about the positives in this race. Talk about the positives of this man here, Cooper Webster. Once again, brilliant drive, race victory, although he was very severely challenged.
Yeah, really good drive from Cooper. He won at the start. You know, it's like we said, that it's about getting the heat in the tyres. That was all going to be about this race, and Cooper nailed it. You know, straight off that first lap, he had such a gap that Liam actually fell back and he dropped behind Blakely, and really that's what cost him this race.
Yeah, certainly so. I've got to say, when you see drives like that from Cooper Webster, but it's mostly the one from McNeely there, I'm sort of sat there being like, I get the feeling this could come down to the final race. If Cooper Webster has a solid race tomorrow morning, then he'll probably get wrapped up in that one for second place, but you never know, and don't count out McNeely. I just want to see this podium streak continue again. He's looking not just to get 7 in a row, he's looking to try and get 8 in a row, because we've never seen it before. Here is a look at your finishes then. So Cooper Webster taking the victory, Liam McNeely in second place, Lucas Blakely in that third spot and onto the podium for the first time in his career in GB4. Of course, he's only on 2 rounds. Zach Ping will be the one in 4th position with Harry Burgoyne Jr. You'll be pretty happy with that one. Inside the top 5, Theo McCurry inside the top 6 on his debut, so fantastic effort from the top of our debutants this round. Colin Queen in 7th position with Kulkarni, Smith and Hotchin inside the top 10 for the 3rd time this season. Sebastian Murray, after a couple of issues earlier on in the race, will finish in 11th position before we get to a lap down for Thomas Lee, a lap down for Jack Clifford, Finn Harrison, Dan Hickey and Lexi Belk unable to make the race start. A lot of positives to talk through on that one, a lot of expectations coming through into tomorrow, which is expected, Max, to be a dry one.
Yeah, dry all day apparently, is the weather reports.
We'll see.
I'll see it I believe when I see it.
We will see. I mean, like I say, he had quite a bit of pressure coming into this round, did Cooper Webster. Obviously, you know, he's been kind of had nothing to lose all season with Tom Mills being there, and now had kind of everything to lose. Now that Tom Mills, you know, isn't here for this round, it's now Cooper Webster's time to step up, and he stepped up.
Yeah, exactly. It was always going to be interesting because Mills has been so dominant this year. It was like, when you take Mills out of the equation, what's going to happen? Yeah. You know, and we've just witnessed that. We've just witnessed what the season would have been like of those kind of battles. But that shows why it's so important to come and do the second year. Yeah. Because, you know, you learn through the first year. I say it's a learning thing, and you shouldn't really leave till you can learn everything you can learn from being in a championship and being with a car. And, you know, Mills did what he did last year, had a very solid first year, finished 5th in the championship, I believe, or 4th in the championship. Came into this year and has just dominated it. Straight out the box has been really, really impressive. And so for anyone who comes on, you know, thinking about should I, like, you know, in the mid-grid, do it again, I think it's testament to show what happens if you do come back.
Yeah, certainly so. So who knows what these drivers might well be ended up doing next year. Well, maybe we can hear from a few of them, because we'll head down to John Jackson and catch up with our podium finishers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lewis. We'll let Cooper have his little moment here. I was just looking there. I can't see it now, annoyingly. It's so cold out here, and the tyres are so warm. There's a nice little effect coming off the tyres, just to demonstrate just how warm these tyres are. And obviously, we talked a lot in that race about the tyres and getting them warm, given how cold the track's been. But unfortunately, it's not to be. So I'll just go and chat to our race winner. Cooper, I've got to chip in, mate. That's exactly what you wanted, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, to get away cleanly at the start, and then yeah, just to lead the whole race. But you know, I was getting pressured the whole time with McNeely there, so it was never easy. And I made a few lockups at the beginning. Couldn't get the bias further enough back, like the bias adjuster got stuck. But you know, not trying to make excuses, because it was a good race, and yeah, I'm really happy.
Yeah, you did really well. Liam put you under a lot of pressure, and you managed to handle it. The tyres, did they take a lot longer than you expected to come in, or you know, how quickly did you get them warm?
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time, because you know, when you drive out new tyres, you're normally used to, you get like 3 warm-up laps in qualifying. So you know, it's very rare that we all got to then like push flat out on brand new tyres, because we probably didn't get the stickers off before the start of the race. So that was fun, but it was very sketchy, like under braking in some spots. Yeah, it worked out good.
Well, look, behind you, lots of stuff went on, so I'll go and chat to them about that. You go and get your trophy. Cooper Webster, your winner with Evans GP. Let's move on and chat to Liam McNeely here, because Liam McNeely was putting in some good laps there. And I was just saying, Liam, you were really pushing him all the way.
Yeah, yeah, you know, pretty good pace there. Yeah, just keeping it on the dry stuff. That was all. Yeah, you know, damp parts of the track, especially the first hairpin. You know, it was really wet, so just keeping it tight. And yeah, you know, we caught him up, just not enough this time.
Yeah, did you see much of the chaos going on behind? Your teammate was involved in that chaos?
No, unfortunately I didn't, but yeah, I'm sure, yeah, you know, there was a lot of overtaking going on behind. Obviously I saw I had quite a big gap to third, so yeah, you know, I'm sure there was a lot of fighting going on, so yeah.
We'll let you go back and watch that, but nice one for coming second. Liam McNeely there with Fox Motorsport. We're going to go and chat to Lucas Blakely, who is being interviewed by the course interviewer, I guess you would call him. I'm going to have to kind of chip in here, but it's fine. I'm sure he'll be all right with it. We'll just give him a little moment here. But this is actually Lucas's, well, I was going to say it, but this is your first podium in GB4. How do you feel?
Speechless. Yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon. Just first of all, massive thank you to KMR Sport for, you know, first of all, even giving me this opportunity to race this weekend. It's not something that I thought would, you know, ever happen again. You know, I didn't think I'd, you know, be back. I didn't think I'd, let alone be able to get a podium. So, yeah, very, very emotional, because this is something that, for me, when I was younger, wasn't possible. So, you know, I'm a bit, you know, teary-eyed, but I'm not ashamed of it. I'm very, very happy. So, thanks to KMR Sport. Thanks to Pace Note as well for sponsoring me this weekend here at Donington, and just a quick thank you to my, you know, my family watching at home, because, you know, I'm sure they would have loved to have been here, but yeah, this is very much our victory, because, you know, they supported me all these years, whether in karting or sim racing, and now here at GB4. So yeah, ecstatic.
They'll be very proud of you. Just obviously you come from a sim racing background, and I know you can win races and get lap records and things, but there's nothing different to probably getting a trophy, I'd imagine, in just a few minutes in front of people who have watched you race. That must be something you're really looking forward to as much as you are emotional.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest, one of the best moments of my life, to be honest, because I didn't think this was unreachable when I was younger. So yeah, I mean, I probably drove the slowest race on the planet once I got back to P3, because I knew I wasn't going to catch the leaders. It would have been too much risk, so I was like, I'm going to take what I got. I don't care how long it takes me to get to the line. I'm just going to bring it in. Drove, you know, as level-headed a race as I could, and when I saw the checkered flag, I couldn't believe it. So
yeah, look, risk management is all part of driving. I'm going to stop ruining the best moment of your racing career so far and let you go and get your trophy. Lucas Blakely with KMR Sport, third place driver, as you can see, absolutely loving what he's just done and incredibly emotional. If you're watching back home and supporting him, you're going to really enjoy this, because he's about to get his trophy. I'll hand over to Lewis for the podium.
Yeah, almost brought a tear to my eye there. That was clearly a very emotional moment for Lucas Blakely, and it will indeed continue. You can see how much pace, how much talent he's got, and it really does show. So you can see him taking third position onto the step, and obviously will pose for all of the photographs he possibly can, including from our photographers that will be all over the place when he gets that trophy after Andrea Del Canton from Tartu with one hand in the mouth. There is McNeely onto the second step of the podium, and of course Cooper Webster onto the top step. Those two fighting all the way to the line, although part of me gets the feeling that neither of those two are the happiest man on the podium. It surely is Lucas Blakely, certainly the most emotional, and rightfully so. They'll be handed their trophies, which again, it's another victory for Cooper Webster. It's his third, of course, his third victory from his career. Of course, Lucas Blakely, the first one to be handed. Andrea Del Canton from Tartus, the communications director from Tartus, being the ones to hand out the trophies for this one. Liam McNeely, yet another podium, again, sixth one on the bounce. And of course, that third victory of the season for Cooper Webster, as he pulls himself a bit further clear of the order behind when it comes to his chase and eyeing up of that potential second in the standings. He's looking very strong for it, but needs to piece together a potentially perfect day tomorrow. But that's a deal for tomorrow. We've done for today. Let's take a look at highlights from the race. Highlights from round 19 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, as we got racing down towards a very slippery and tricky turn 1. It was a perfect start for Cooper Webster. Liam McNeely, though, was feeling the pressure from Lucas Blakely, who had a fantastic start from the second row of the grid. Out around the outside he would go, and moving his way up into second. Brilliant translation on the start, but there was drama behind. Sebastian Murray going for a bit of a spin on the inside of Dan Hickey, and once it left him one wheel on the grass, he was able to flick his way back round. Lucas Blakely was having a couple of moments. He dropped back behind McNeely and Queen, and nearly Ping as well on the race down towards the first corner, but drama behind for Kulkarni would bring him back into the pit lane along with Hickey. This is where the big drama really happened, though. Look in the background, Jack Clifford straight in to the rear end of Harrison, and then even more drama afterwards, lighting up the rear end. Sid Smith continuing on without a rear wing, but showing some fantastic car control to keep his car at least on the road, as he would be dropped back a single position courtesy of Theo Mercurius before returning his way into pit lane. Meanwhile, for the race lead, things were getting closer and closer, courtesy of fastest lap after fastest lap being set from the driver in second place. It wasn't enough, though, to catch our race winner, as it would be another one, the third of the season for the number 37 and the Evans Grand Prix team. It was Cooper Webster on top from Liam McNeely and Lucas Blakely. A brilliant effort, though, saw plenty of battles happening behind. This was on the last lap of the race. Bit of a mistake there from Clifford, straight into the side there, and yeah, just a bit of a messy moment, to be perfectly honest, as they would come up towards the line. We'll take a look at the championship standings. Of course, must be said, very, very, very provisional indeed. Of course, the one thing that's not provisional about that is the 505 points that Tom Mills has. Cooper Webster obviously still hangs on to second position, but pulls himself a bit further clear, not quite into the 50s clear of Liam McNeely, and of course the points gap that he was looking for was 70 points clear of Liam McNeely. That has not happened, and thus we definitely continue on to Sunday in that fight for second in the standings. Liam McNeely in third position, though, almost completely clean of Colin Queen, who's definitely out of the fight for second in the standings, but look at that fight for fifth. We were talking about this, of course, myself and Max, the fight between Aditya Kulkarni and Harry Burgoyne Jr. Harry Burgoyne Jr. focused on trying to get himself into fifth position in the standings and hang on to that. 226 points separates the both of them. Clifford, Smith, Fairbairn and Ruhan Alva round out the top 10. We must, though, head our way down to John Jackson, who's in the paddock area catching up with various drivers.
I am here, Lewis. Thank you very much. I'm with Sid Smith. We've had people going past making jokes about no spoilers. What was the other one?
Are you winging it?
Are you winging it? And we can see your car behind here without the back wing. And also, there's something else. Point out what you told me about the back tyre as well. If we can maybe come and see this.
As you can see, it's not only 10 off the rear wing, but it actually slices the tyre up here, which wasn't helping me or doing me any favours at all throughout the race, but just to add to the lack of rear grip, that didn't help at all. But you know, not a result we're hoping for at all, but at least even with all this, and I had an incident with the front wing as well, that we still finished and it's still points in the day. So,
well, but they were saying on commentary just now how well you managed to hold things together when you lost such a big part of your car. You know, they were discussing the fact that you can lose the front wing and it's obviously not ideal, but losing the rear wing is a real problem. But I mean, I don't know how you managed to do it, but it was impressive.
Yeah, well, if you look at the track condition, there wasn't much grip out there anyway, especially being wet for most of it. So as soon as I lost my rear wing, I could see in my mirror I lost my rear wing, but I didn't quite anticipate how much downforce that actually gave us. So I think I went down craners for the first time, and I think I was one full lock to the other set of full lock, but I soon kind of adapted around it. I was kind of debating which would be quicker to fit a new front wing or stay out, but I think I made the right decision. Like I say, I got to finish, so it's better than nothing. But, you know, we're always hoping for more. It wasn't our best race, but I guess we can always come back stronger from that.
Well, exactly. Damage limitation, of course, you've got the benefit of having the next race tomorrow now, so the guys can get the car fixed up. But as I say, once again, impressive to see you recover that. Sid Smith, thank you very much. We're going to go over and we're going to find Harry Burgoyne Jr., I believe. Let's walk up here. Very nice evening here on the border of Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. I think Leicestershire might come into the mix somewhere around here at Donington. I'm not entirely sure of the geographical nature of the East Midlands, other than football, basically. Let's keep walking here and let's find some other drivers. Harry Burgoyne Jr. is apparently waiting for us down here. We've got a lot of people supporting Dylan Hodgkin on the left here. A lot of people watching him. Look how full that is. Okay, I'm being told he does not want to talk to us. Harry Burgoyne Jr., let's talk to him. So when we first got here this morning, we were looking at the track and we were saying, "Oh, that doesn't look very good. It's a bit wet." And we got to a stage where, not too long before you guys went out, you changed to slicks, and it was still pretty tricky out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some of the corners still had a bit of water in them, so it made it very difficult at the start, but as the race went on, it dried out a bit more and was a bit more eventful.
Yeah, so tomorrow should be a lot drier. It's still going to be very, very cold. Do you think you can build on what you've done so far? Do you think there's more pace you can get out of the car?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got more pace than me. Car's probably got a little bit where we can tweak, but yeah, I think overall we're aiming for a podium.
It must be quite a different feeling to go out for a race on brand new tyres, because obviously you've just used the wet tyres so far, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, going out on new tyres is always harder, trying to get like the shiny stuff off of them, try to get them scrubbed in before the race starts so you're on it from lap 1.
Yeah. Did you see much of the chaos going on around you? Did you have a good view of much of it going on? Can you give us some insight?
Well, I looked in my mirror and all I seen was cars spinning and hitting each other and wings flying everywhere, but that was about it really.
I was going to say, as a driver, it's probably a nice thing to see that behind you than in front of you, because if it's in front, then you've got to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's behind you, you can concentrate on going forward and looking who's in front, who you can pass and everything.
Nice one. All right, well, we'll let you get a good rest tonight, and we'll see you for 2 more races tomorrow. Harry Burgoyne Jr. there with Graham Brunton Racing. Thomas Lee's walking up here. We're just going to walk and talk. Yeah. Always good to catch up with you. Always great to see you here. Last weekend of the season. How are you feeling out there? It's a track you've already driven at, and last time we were here, you told me you'd done not a lot of practice, but at least you got some racing in last time, right?
Yes, I did. And actually, I did quite a few hours on the sim this time. But honestly, the condition of the weather was not expected. So I think that in terms of learning, the learning curve, it was good. Like, I had a blast. I actually just had this long conversation with Josh and the whole team. I'm loving it. Like, oh my goodness, like, you know, super cold weather, and then on slicks and on rain tire, it was just mind-blowing. But anyway.
You're a guy that likes to push yourself, and that's what we like, and I guess you're pushing yourself here with these conditions. It must be good as well to see Cooper doing so well and pretty much looking like he's going to nail on second place.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm so happy for him. I mean, you know, I'm not going to get too, I don't know, like, with the fancy with the wording, but I do have to say I have one of the best teammates, for sure, and I'm so happy for him, you know, that he got into podium, you know, today, and especially with all this type of condition. And of course, you know, before the race, I also try to reach out to him to get some more feedback in terms of, you know, how to drive good, you know, with all the experiences. But anyway, yeah.
We have to say, we love how much you want to improve and how much you're putting into this. And I know there's people watching back home, and actually you're a bit of a worldwide guy, aren't you, because you've got family in the States and everything. Right. But whoever's watching now, do you want to give them a little message? Are your kids watching maybe? I don't know if they're watching back home.
Are you trying to make me cry?
Yes, 100% I am. I've already had Lucas Blakely on the verge of tears.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, I love you guys. I mean, you know, all my family members, especially Yvonne and Julian. So one thing I guess I could say here. So Yvonne, my older son, he started karting last week.
Right, so the legacy's begun?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of him. So.
Okay, so in what, like, I don't know, like 15 or so years, well, maybe even less, maybe 10 years? I don't know how old he is, but 10 years, GB4, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I'm serious. So, I mean, I've been talking to Josh and Cooper, actually, because I really want Cooper to train my son, you know, start with karting. And then, I mean, you know, one of my long-term goal is to really do like an endurance race with Yvonne and Julian. So it's like a father and son team.
But also race against them, maybe?
I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah, we'll leave that down the lane. We'll let you carry on and go and do what you need to do. Thomas Lee, always great to chat to him. Hopefully we'll chat to him again this weekend because he's always such a big character. That was 2 races, the GB3 Championship, the GB4 Championship as well. We've got 4 more races coming up tomorrow. All the details of the times of those races can be found on the GB3 and the GB4 websites, and you can obviously look on the social media as well, see photos and videos and things like that. At 10:45, I'm being told in my ear, is when you need to be watching this stream as the action recommences here at Donington Park at 9:45, sorry. I'm not very good with times today for some reason. 9:45, make sure you're here. I would just go on the GB4 and GB3 Championship websites. You'll find all the times there. A great first day of racing here at Donington Park. Tomorrow is the final day of the season and there is a lot to still be decided, so make sure you join us.